Hello friendos and bendos, it's me Z, and Wonder Woman is an amazing character with tons of great villains, but because of her lack of attention by DC, people don't really know her villains that well. So I decided to make a video explaining every Wonder Woman villain that I possibly can. So let's just get started with it. First up, let's talk about Ares. Now, Ares, while I wouldn't consider him Wonder Woman's archenemy, I would consider him her biggest bad. Ares is the literal god of war from Greek mythology, and he's the reason that the Amazons were created in the first place. Because of his warmongering, the goddesses decided to stop him. They would create the Amazons to stop war on Earth. And that's why the Amazons and Ares have this kind of eternal clash, and why Wonder Woman and Ares have this eternal clash. Of course, Ares, being a god, is super powerful, but he also acts mostly through agents like his children, Phobos, Deimos, and Eris, as well as his henchmen, the Duke of Deception, the Count of Conquest, and the Earl of Greed. A lot of times you'll see Wonder Woman fight these guys instead of Ares personally, though sometimes she does fight Ares personally, but that's like at the end of an arc, or when things are getting really serious. So that's Ares and his relationship with Wonder Woman. Let's move on to our next villain, which is Cheetah. Cheetah is, in modern day, Barbara Ann Minerva. Now, Barbara Ann Minerva, her origin has stayed pretty consistent. It's changed a bit, but the broad strokes have stayed consistent. She's an archaeologist who was in Africa, who went to the Temple of Urzkartaga and gained the powers of the god Urzkartaga, and became Urzkartaga's agent on Earth. I'm saying the word Urzkartaga a lot because I can't formulate this sentence because I'm fucking stupid. But anyway, she got Urzkartaga's powers, which was to be his demigod avatar, the Cheetah. So she gained, super speed, super strength. She's actually one of the fastest characters in DC Comics. I'll put up a chart here to show you just how fast she is. But the thing about Urzkartaga is that he's an asshole. He's a misogynist asshole, as gods tend to be. So when he gave Cheetah her powers, she also got cursed because she wasn't a virgin. And so now she also has a hungering for human meat, an insatiable hunger for human meat. So that's part of what puts her at odds with Wonder Woman, because she eats people, but there's also a personal difference between them as well. Originally, Barbara Ann Minerva just fought Wonder Woman because she believed that her lasso of truth would be the way to cure her curse. And, when that didn't work, eventually they kind of, formed an on and off again, villain, frenemy kind of relationship. But as of recently, post 2016, Barbara Ann Minerva, she has a much closer relationship with Wonder Woman due to the fact that actually she was one of the first people that Wonder Woman met when she came to man's world. And so that kind of increases the whole, tragedy of Cheetah, being cursed, especially because, again, she's, being driven insane by this insatiable hunger, you know what I mean? And part of that as well, it makes her hate Wonder Woman, not only because, she of her insatiable hunger, and her insanity, but also because she low-key blames her for, her problems due to just all these factors, even though they're so close as well. You know what I mean? It's just so tragic. But then we have the other Cheetahs, pre-Barbara Ann Minerva. You might have seen them. First of all, there's Priscilla Rich. She was a rich socialite woman who had multiple personalities. She had a split personality. The split personality of hers was the Cheetah, a sadistic maniac who dressed in cheetah print because why not? And next up, we had Deborah Domain in the late Silver Age and Bronze Age. Deborah Domain, she was an environmental activist who was brainwashed into becoming evil, and she also just wears cheetah print. Though this time, they decided to give Cheetah, these extra claws. Her part of her suit are these really sharp claws, which that's at least better than just wearing a cheetah print suit. But as of the 80s, actually, Barbara Ann Minerva has been the Cheetah, been consistently the Cheetah in pretty much all forms of media, and I like that. I like Barbara the most. Let's move on. Next is Circe. Circe is the next villain up, and who I would consider Wonder Woman's archenemy, though that is debatable. The thing about Circe is that she is, like Ares, the literal Circe from Greek mythology. She murdered her husband and was chased out from her home, and as a result, she grew to, loathe humanity. She became very misanthropic, and the goddess Hecate, seeing her hatred for humanity, decided to have Circe be her agent on Earth, and essentially that's the deal with Circe. She's just kind of just an asshole, you know what I mean? Like, she just views herself as, just deserving of all this power and wanting to keep all this power, and she doesn't want to have anybody in her way, and so that puts her in conflict with Wonder Woman because she's just a giant piece of shit. But I like that about her. I really like her. She's really cool, and she's just super powerful with all of her magic. She can do things like turn men into animals. That's one of her key abilities, but she can do other stuff because, she's a literal, like, one of the most powerful witches on Earth because she has the power of the goddess Hecate. Her origin actually hasn't changed that much, despite, the fact that, like, Wonder Woman's origin changes a lot, but Circe has stayed decently consistent, which I like. It's pretty cool. Next up you have Dr. Psycho. Dr. Psycho is a misogynist. He is an incel. His entire deal is that he hates women because his wife left him, and people made fun of him because he was short, and the reason his wife left him was because he was short. And so he decided, you know what, I fucking hate women, and I'm gonna use my psychic powers to be, the worst person ever. And I kind of like that. I kind of like that Wonder Woman just has this straight up villain who's just, his entire deal is that he's just a misogynist. You know what I mean? That speaks a lot to, again, her, like, the philosophy behind her creation of, feminism. Well, and so, having a strict misogynist, like, supervillain works wonders for, the message. And I really like Dr. Psycho because he's such an absolute creep asshole. Just no redeemable qualities whatsoever, but you just kind of love to hate him. And I like that about him. He has, telepathy, mind control powers, all sorts of, mind-based abilities, that work wonderfully with, his whole vibe, because you just get that creep factor, you know what I mean? Like, if you read the George Perez run, Psycho does some creepy shit. Like, oh my god, I love that. I loved all the reveals with Psycho in that run. It was so good. Next up, you have Giganta. Now, Giganta has actually changed quite a bit. Originally, she was a gorilla named Giganta, who was turned into a human by a Professor Zool, who had an evolutionary machine which could evolve and devolve creatures. So Giganta was put in a machine, and she was evolved into a human, a really large human. Not like super duper large like we know of Giganta today. She was like 12 feet tall at most. She was like double the size of a regular person, but she was still, a really tall woman. It wasn't until the Super Friends cartoon that the idea of Giganta being able to grow to like building sizes was created. So Giganta, originally, again, she was just a really tall woman because she was a gorilla turned into a really tall woman, but now she had these size-changing powers. And following the Crisis on Infinite Earths reboot, Giganta's origin was changed. Now she was Professor Doris Zool, who had a rare disease that she cured by, I kid you not, putting her brain into the body of a gorilla and then putting her brain from the body of the gorilla into another woman, and that woman had size-changing powers. It was very convoluted, and so when the New 52 happened, they decided to streamline it to she was a woman with a rare disease who made her own cure, and she cured herself, but she also gained the ability to grow really, 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 really tall. Another thing about Giganta is that originally, when it came to her size-changing powers, they also drained her intelligence, but that's not the case anymore. The thing about Giganta is I kind of prefer the ape origin, and I'm pretty glad that they've started to be more vague with her origins recently. Like, she's not, like, in the most recent run, she's actually, like, said to not be confirmed if she was actually a gorilla turned human or a regular human. And I really like that. I like Giganta just being an ape woman. I think it's really cool, and I think we need more ape women in comics. All the ape characters, all the ape supervillains that we have, they're all male, and I'm thinking to myself, why can't we have, gorilla? Why can't we have female gorilla villains? All right, what is this double standard? SMHDC, SMH Detective Comics, how dare you? Next up, we have Veronica Cale, one of my personal favorite Wonder Woman villains. She is essentially, if you want to break it down to its simplest term, she is Wonder Woman's Lex Luthor. She believes herself to be the true Wonder Woman in a sense. She believes herself to be the American dream personified. She was a poor girl who pulled herself up by her bootstraps, went to college, got super rich, made a company, built herself up from ground zero, and she views Wonder Woman as naive at best and malicious at worst for being this seemingly perfect being, from a perfect place, who tells people that they can be perfect. She views it all as a scam, and she just does tons of stuff to discredit Wonder Woman and attack her, and it's really good because you have both this, Wonder Woman villain who can, play both sides of both. Oh, she's gonna hire supervillains to attack Wonder Woman, but also she's gonna bash Wonder Woman in the media and discredit her in the media, and I really like that about her. As well, in the Rebirth, when Rebirth happened, there was also the extra layer given of her daughter. Her daughter was actually kidnapped by Deimos and Phobos, Ares' children, and so that added an extra layer of hatred to Wonder Woman, because she viewed Wonder Woman as the reason her daughter got captured, which is actually the reason they wanted to use her as leverage, and so that's another era of hatred that Veronica Cale has for Wonder Woman, which I really like. But my personal favorite, Veronica Cale is my second favorite. My favorite Wonder Woman villain is Angelo Bend, the Angle Man. So Angleman's deal is that originally he was a thief who knew all the angles, alright? He was a master thief who knew all the angles, hence he was the Angle Man. But then he got captured by Wonder Woman, and Darkseid himself, literally Darkseid of Apocalypse, God of Evil, went to him and was like, hey, you want to join my supervillain team that I'm making to defeat the Justice League? And he was like, sure. And then he gave him the Angler, which is a reality warping device, alright? Darkseid gave this two-time crook a reality warping device that can send people to other dimensions, even travel through time. You know what I mean? This is an insane device. You know what I mean? It's crazy, and I love that because, at the end of the day, Angleman, even with this power, doesn't step up his game and try to rule the universe. He just keeps being a common thief who just has a reality warping device. He'll just break into a place and you're trying to capture him, and he'll be like, actually, I'm no longer in this building, I'm actually on the other side of the world, and it's awesome. I love Angleman so much. Next up is Silver Swan. Silver Swan has changed a lot, not a consistent villain at all. Originally, she was, an evil woman, who could fly. She was an agent of Ares. But next up, after the Crisis of Infinite Earths reboot, her story was made a lot more tragic. She was a girl who was essentially groomed by this rich older man into becoming a test subject for her, and she just felt so worthless and indebted to him that she would do anything for him, and it was really tragic. And her powers included, from that, graph included, her being able to fly and shout sonic screams. And then Vanessa Capitelis, she then became the Silver Swan, and she's been the Silver Swan in the comics since then. Originally, she was Wonder Woman's best friends. She's one of Wonder Woman's best friends in the post-crisis continuity. But because the strain of having a supervillain as having a superhero as your friend, it led to rifts in Diana and her and Vanessa's mother's relationship, and so that made it easy for Vanessa to get kidnapped and experimented on and brainwashed into becoming the Silver Swan, who have the same powers as the other Silver Swan, flight and sonic screams. But eventually Wonder Woman did, manage to save her, which is great. But then the New 52 happened, and now Vanessa Capitelis, her entire backstory has changed. She's now essentially a woman with a little girl with a parasocial relationship with Wonder Woman. She viewed herself as like Wonder Woman's friend, even though she really wasn't. Like, she knew Wonder Woman, but like Wonder Woman wasn't her friend. She was a girl that she saved, and visited occasionally, to make sure she was still doing well, because she's nice like that. But Vanessa, she essentially grew insane because she thought that she was Wonder Woman's friend, like one of her close friends, even though she wasn't, and that drove her to becoming the Silver Swan. After that is Grail. Grail is the daughter of Darkseid and an Amazon. So you have this dynamic of, the greatest good of the Amazons and the greatest evil of Darkseid, and that mixes together. And you think to yourself, oh wow, not only is this character super powerful, because literally Darkseid's a new god, and Amazons, have incredible powers as well. But also, there's this dynamic of, oh, she's both pure evil and pure good. Can that even coexist? And you'd think that, but no. Grail is just pure evil, and she hasn't had a good story since her debut. Honestly, like, I'm really hoping that Tom King in his new run, he steps up the Grail storytelling game, because right now she's really boring. And she just hasn't done anything worthwhile since her original appearance at the tail end of the New 52 Justice League book. And I'm hoping that, Wonder Woman issue 18, which is set to come out after this video, I think in 2 weeks, at the time of recording this video, hopefully the rematch between Wonder Woman and Grail that's said to be happening in that book, hopefully it's good, and hopefully Grail does some cool stuff, because she is really boring right now. She's such super boring. I don't like her, and that's unfortunate, because she has a really cool design and a really cool backstory. Next up, alright, we have more of the... Next up, I'd say we have villains that are not as deep as these other guys, so we can like blitz through them. All right, those are the main villains. Now we have simpler villains. All right, Dr. Poison. Dr. Poison is a master of viruses and poisons. Blue Snowman is Burna Brilliant. They were a woman who dressed up in an armor with freezing powers to steal stuff, and people assumed they were a man. They weren't a man, they're a woman under there. But then they recently come out as non-binary, which is pretty cool. Wonder Woman needs more genderqueer villains, so I like Blue Snowman. Dr. Cyber, she's really convoluted for such a minor villain. She's gone through so many different backstories for such a minor villain. But essentially, she's a criminal mastermind who has integrated their brain with technology, and she's just a master of technology. And I think that's pretty cool, but also she's so confusing that I can't really explain it in simple terms. Originally, she was a woman named Sylvia Cyber, but then more recently, post Rebirth, she's been made to be one of Veronica Cale's friends, who there was a rift formed between them, and then they became different supervillains to one woman, but in different ways. So I guess it's actually not that hard to explain, but she still changed quite a bit. Next up is Devastation. Devastation was made by Kronos of the Greek Titans to be an enemy of Wonder Woman, the anti-Wonder Woman essentially. He went to Themyscira and molded clay on Themyscira. I'm pretty sure was it the same night as Diana? I'll correct myself in post if that is the case. But essentially, he went to Themyscira, he molded clay on Themyscira, and similarly to how when Hippolyta, molded Diana, the goddesses brought Diana to life and gave her powers, Kronos and his henchmen brought Devastation to life from the clay and gave her powers similar to Diana, plus others, because, fuck's sake, villains gotta have more powers than the hero. Anyway, I actually think Devastation is really cool, a really underrated villain, and unfortunately doesn't show up much, despite the fact that I just think she's super awesome. In fact, out of the several villains that I would consider the anti-Wonder Woman, as in they're Wonder Woman but evil, you know what I mean? It's similar to how Flash has Reverse Flash, and Superman has Zod. Wonder Woman has anti-Wonder Womans. I consider Devastation the best of them. Grail, you could also consider an anti-Wonder Woman, but I think Devastation is way cooler than Grail, IMO. Simply because Devastation has had better story arcs. Next up is Chang Tzu. Chang Tzu has quite a bit of a story. Originally, Chang Tzu was Egg Fu, alright, a racist Chinese character, a racist Chinese caricature made during the Red Scare, and he was just. This is the, I'll put up. I'm probably putting it up on screen so you can see it, but essentially. Egg Fu was just such a racist caricature. It was insane. And so when DC decided to eventually bring Egg Fu back in like a major capacity, because Egg Fu popped up from time to time. He was actually a decently reoccurring villain. He popped up from time to time. But when when DC finally decided, let's put him in something, like important, which was the 52 comic, which was like an aftermath comic to one of DC's big events at the time, Infinite Crisis. 52 followed the year after. They decided to bring Egg Fu back as a bit of a major player in that event, and so he was changed to Chang Tzu, a much less racist interpretation of the character, who's super cool. Like I love both the like cracked egg aesthetic as well as the smooth aesthetic. I think both of them work really well, and I just love how sadistic and evil he is. Like if you read the comics with him, he just does not care about human life whatsoever because he's not human. I'm pretty sure his origin as of recently has not been confirmed, but originally he was like an evil supercomputer, an evil Chinese supercomputer, but now we don't know what he is. He's just an egg. He's just egg. And I like that about him. He's an evil scientist egg who is not racist anymore. In fact, they reference the Egg Fu name and he almost kills the person who says Egg Fu to him. It's pretty funny. There's also a secondary Egg Fu in the comics right now. Edgar Fullerton Young, a Harley Quinn character who was supposed to be the New 52 version of Chang Tzu, but then they decided to bring Chang Tzu back, so they kind of both exist, but the main Egg Fu in my heart right now is Chang Tzu, and we will no longer be calling him Egg Fu because he doesn't like it, and I respect the egg. Alright, let's go on to the Sovereign. The Sovereign is the most recent Wonder Woman villain on this list. He's so recent, in fact, that Wonder Woman has yet to defeat him. He is the literal king of America. DC Comics has confirmed that in fact America is a secret monarchy, and the reason we didn't know this before was because he had the lasso of lies, which is the opposite of the lasso of truth. The lasso of lies makes people believe whatever lie is told to them when they are being held in the lasso of lies, and I think that's a pretty cool idea. The Sovereign is very misogynistic. He's very patriarchal. He is very capitalist. He's very imperialist. Because he's the fucking king of America, and I'm excited to see how he's finally dealt with in the coming months. I mean, because his arc has 2 issues left. Again, he's very recent. He's yet to be defeated. Next up is Queen Clea. She's a queen of an Atlantean city-state, and she's an evil queen of an Atlantean city-state, and she makes her male citizens like fight in gladiatorial combat for her amusement. Next up is Paula von Gunther. Originally, she was a Nazi woman in the original 40s comics, but recently she has been reimagined. She's been reimagined as more of a I wouldn't say a tragic figure, but essentially she's connected to another Wonder Woman villain, Gundra. Gundra was a Golden Age Wonder Woman villain. They were a Valkyrie, and so Paula von Gunther was retconned post-rebirth to be related to Gundra, an ancestor of Gundra, and as such, she hates the Amazons because the Valkyries and the Amazons have a rivalry, and so she's not a Nazi anymore, but she's still evil, and her family has worked with the Nazis. In fact, her parents were part of a white nationalist group. But she herself is a white nationalist, so I guess that's fine. Genocide. She is another anti-Wonder Woman kind of character. Well, no, I would say she's more of like a Doomsday type of character, instead of like Zod. She's more of Doomsday than Zod. Genocide was made from literally the dirt of several of the most places in on Earth where some of the bloodiest battles were ever had, and the spoil from those places was gathered up, and then through magic and technology was turned into a killing machine known as genocide, which I think is pretty hardcore. But I'm not the hugest fan of genocide. She's cool, but she's not that cool. Next up, we have a bunch of smaller-time villains. Let's just rush through them. Hypnota has hypnosis powers. Zara has fire powers and runs a cult. Red Centipede was a monster created by Ares. Mouseman, he's the size of a mouse and he controls mice. Yippee! Dr. Domino, he has a domino for a head. I don't know if the domino is actually his head or it's a mask. I don't think it's ever confirmed. Next up, we have the guy from the mirror dimension. He's a mirror guy. And then you got the calculator. Or is it Dr. Calculus? It's one of those. Then you got the guy with the ice gun who's not Blue Snowman. He's boring. I don't give a shit about him. Then you have Gundra. I mentioned her before. Don't give a shit about her. Let's see, you got Evil S. I'm running out of things to say. I'm just going to stop here before I embarrass myself. That's been it for me, Z. I hope you learned something here, or at least, you had some fun, or you were clarified on certain things. I had a lot of fun just talking about Wonder Woman villains, just yapping, and I hope you did. I hope you enjoyed listening to me too. Again, it's been me, Z, and I'll see you next time. Bye.